The Steam Deck is a portable device, and one would expect such a device to be playable even offline. That's not necessarily the case though. There are a couple of issues in regards to that, and that's what I want to talk about today. Gamers tend to be habitually indoors, but on the occasion that they go outside, and for an extended period of time, they can in fact bring a portable system with them. The Nintendo Switch comes to mind. Remember all of that early marketing? Fast forward to today and we have the Steam Deck, Valve's own take on the portable system. The main advantage to this over a traditional PC is the fact that it's portable. You can take it outside of your house. No longer are you chained to your desk. At least that's the main idea. Surely there's nothing that'll interfere with this, right? Not exactly. So why don't we start with the offline experience? As you can see here, you have the option of entering an offline mode as well as disabling Wi-Fi to begin with. So what's the difference? Well, entering offline mode basically disables all of the online services of Steam, but because you're still technically connected to Wi-Fi, you can still, browse the internet using Google Chrome or something like that. So the first thing to note is that there are quite a few DRM-free games available on Steam. This is one such a game, Blue Revolver. The game has an online leaderboard system, but other than that though, the game is totally playable offline from beginning to end. As you can see here, just disabling Wi-Fi doesn't necessarily mean you can't run DRM-free games like Blue Revolver. Of course, you have games that use Steam exclusively as their form of DRM in the case of Risk of Rain 2, and that game seems to work offline. You'd be surprised how many games just use Steam as its main form of DRM. Like, I scoured my entire library finding a single game that had Genevo on it, and I think I found one. Metal Gear Solid 5. The Phantom Pain. Even years after this game's release, this game still has Genevo built into it, which is exactly what we need for our purposes. So we're installing Metal Gear Solid 5, and before we launch it, we'll disable Wi-Fi. So a few things to note. Yes, this game's taking like a million years to launch, but that's not entirely unexpected given that Metal Gear Solid 5 is a pretty big game. In fact, it's probably more due to the fact that this is the first time I'd be launching the game, which I guess isn't that surprising either. But after skipping some time here, you can see here that Metal Gear Solid 5 seems to have finally loaded. Or so you think. As you can see here, this is Genevo in action. You have to go online first before you can launch the game, and then you can launch the game offline for like a week or two. It's never explicitly stated how long the game can be activated for offline. The point is that games with Genevo will impede your ability to play games offline. Maybe not for your first time, but after a week or two, it certainly will. That said, there are ways to get around DRM, or, fix DRM as they say. There are also some games that you'd expect to be able to play offline. Like this game right here, DJ Max Respect V. It's a rhythm game, and most rhythm games you could totally play offline by yourself. Like, you would expect a series that got its big break on a portable system to be able to be played portably offline without any sort of internet connection. Unfortunately, this game here has something called Zine Code. It's an anti-cheat, but it also acts as an always online DRM. Basically, you can't play the game if you don't have an internet connection, period. And this game, unlike Metal Gear Solid 5, has no way to get around this, no crack or anything of the sort, because it's an online-only game. What a shame, really. So yes, DRM is terrible. It's already pretty bad on a gaming PC where you're tethered to a connection at all times, but it gets even worse when you try to take it somewhere else, when you play on this portable gaming PC of sorts, you know what I'm saying? It's a good thing that a lot of the most popular games either get rid of Genevo after like a couple of months, or, have quote-unquote fixes for them, you know what I'm saying? So while I was making this video, Valve pushed out an update for the beta branch of SteamOS, and guess what? It fixed offline mode. I had this little bit in this video about how offline mode was strictly worse than just turning off Wi-Fi, because half the time games wouldn't even launch. Like Disgaea 6. Disgaea 6 was like one of the first games I tried out in offline mode, and at first it didn't launch. But now with this new beta update, it perfectly launches. Yeah, it just boots into the game as it should, and other games do this too. Kinda neat, dude. Anyways, moral of the story is, whenever I complain about something, Valve's gonna pull a fast one over me. Yeah, so maybe I should complain more about things on the Steam Deck, like how there's no Vanillaware games on Steam. I've also seen some discourse on whether or not having always online DRM should disqualify you from being marked as verified. While I'm sure that Valve could feasibly do this and they could make it happen quite easily and it'd be a much better experience for us, one has to wonder how Valve's biggest partners, the AAA developers, one has to wonder how they'll react to this news if this ever comes to fruition. Just food for thought. I don't know if they'll really get pissed off or anything, but there's always the off chance that some might. I also think it's kind of deceptive how Valve doesn't really mention that this game has Genevo. While Genevo is not strictly an always online game, you have to authenticate online every now and then, like every week or every 2 weeks, or I don't actually know what the interval is because they wouldn't tell us, because that's just kind of how they roll, I guess. It's also very much worth mentioning that you can go beyond Steam, even in offline mode. You want to emulate a bunch of games? You can do that totally offline. Emulated games, unlike their PC counterparts, don't typically have to worry about DRM issues. That said, what about PC titles? What about those? Well, there is a solution for you. It's called GOG. GOG specializes in selling one type of game. Games that are DRM free. There's no DRM restrictions or anything of the sort. While their main claim to fame was selling old games that are no longer being sold by their original publishers, the fact of the matter is GOG has a wide variety of games. Modern games too, ranging from indie games all the way up to AAA titles, like Control. Now you might be wondering, how can I download my GOG titles when there's no official launcher for Linux? And the solution is Heroic Games Launcher. I made a video about Heroic Games Launcher, so you should totally check it out. But basically, GOG titles are good to use no matter how long you're offline for. So Valve has stated on multiple occasions that they want to make the offline experience better. And while that's an admirable goal, that only really fixes half of the problem. The other half being games with DRM, such as Genevo. Well, here's to hoping games shy away from that, or at the very least, update their games to remove Genevo. It's also worth mentioning that it's cheaper for developers to stop using Genevo after 6 months because it's a monthly paid service for them.